Chapter 5 The Rue Saint-Honoré and the Rue de la Paix. I think it was a cat. HMS Pinafore. Mr. Parker sat disconsolate in a small appartement in the Rue de Saint-Honoré. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Paris was full of a subdued but cheerful autumn sunlight, but the room faced north and was depressing, with its plain dark furniture and its deserted air. It was a man's room, well appointed after the manner of a discreet club, and a room that kept its dead owner's counsel imperturbably. 2 large saddleback chairs in crimson leather stood by the cold hearth. On the mantelpiece was a bronze clock, flanked by 2 polished German shells, a stone tobacco jar and an oriental brass bowl containing a long cold pipe, and several excellent engravings in narrow pearwood frames, and the portrait in oils of a rather florid lady of the period of Charles II. The window curtains were crimson, and the floor covered with a solid Turkey carpet. Opposite the fireplace stood a tall mahogany bookcase with glass doors, containing a number of English and French classics, a large collection of books on history and international politics, various French novels, and a number of works on military and sporting subjects, and a famous French edition of the Decameron, with the additional plates. Under the window stood a large bureau. Parker shook his head, took out a sheet of paper, and began to write a report. He had breakfasted on coffee and rolls at 7. He'd made an exhaustive search of the flat. He'd interviewed the concierge, the manager of the Credit Lyonnais, and the prefect of police for the quarter, and the result was very poor indeed. Information obtained from Captain Cathcart's papers. Before the war, Dennis Cathcart had undoubtedly been a rich man. He'd considerable investments in Russia and Germany, and a large share in a prosperous vineyard in Champagne. After coming into his property at the age of 21, he'd concluded his 3 years' residence at Cambridge, and then travelled a good deal, visiting persons of importance in various countries, and apparently studying with a view to a diplomatic career. During the period from 1913 to 1918, the story told by the books became intensely interesting, baffling, and depressing. At the outbreak of war, he'd taken a commission in the 15th. With the help of the cheque-book, Parker reconstructed the whole economic life of a young British officer. Clothes, horses, equipment, travelling, wine and dinners when on leave, bridge debts, rent of a flat, club subscriptions and what not. The outlay was strictly moderate and proportionate to his income, and receipted bills neatly docketed occupied one drawer of the bureau, and a careful comparison of these with the cheque-book and the returned cheques revealed no discrepancy. But beyond these, there appeared to have been another heavy drain upon Cathcart's resources. Beginning in 1913, certain large cheques payable to self appeared regularly at every quarter, and sometimes shorter intervals. As to the destination of these sums, the Bureau preserved the closest discretion. There were no receipts, no memoranda of their expenditure. The great crash which in 1914 shook the credits of the world was mirrored in little in the passbook. The credits from Russian and German sources stopped dead. Those from the French shares slumped to a quarter of the original amount, as the tide of war washed over the vineyards and carried the workers away. Then came an ominous entry of 20,000 francs on the credit side of the account, and 6 months after another of 30,000 francs. After that the landslide followed fast. Parker could picture those curt notes from the front directing the sale of government securities, as the savings of the past 6 years whirled away in the maelstrom of rising prices and collapsing currencies. The dividends grew less and less and ceased. Then, more ominous still, came a series of debits representing the charges on renewal of promissory notes. About 1918 the situation had become acute, and several entries showed a desperate attempt to put matters straight by gambling in foreign exchanges. There were purchases through the bank of German marks, Russian roubles, and the Romanian lei. Mr. Parker sighed sympathetically when he saw this, thinking of 12 worth of these delusive specimens of the engraver's art laid up in his own desk at home. He knew them to be waste paper, yet his tidy mind could not bear the thought of destroying them. Eventually Cathcart had found marks and roubles, very broken reeds. It was about this time that Cathcart's passbook began to reveal the paying in of various sums in cash, some large, some small, at irregular dates and with no particular consistency. In December 19 there had been one of these, amounting to as much as 35,000 francs. Parker at first supposed these sums might represent dividends from some separate securities which Cathcart was handling for himself without passing them through the bank. He made a careful search of the room in the hope of finding either bonds themselves or at least some memorandum concerning them, but the search was in vain, and he was forced to conclude either that Cathcart had deposited them in some secret place, or that the credits in question represented some different source of income. Cathcart had apparently contrived to be demobilized almost at once, owing no doubt to his previous frequentation of distinguished governmental personages, and to have taken a long holiday upon the Riviera. Subsequently, a visit to London coincided with the acquisition of 700 worth, which, converted into francs at the rate of exchange then, made a very respectable item in the account book. From that time on, the outgoings and receipts presented a similar aspect, and were more or less evenly balanced, the cheques to self becoming rather larger and more frequent as time went on, while during 1921 the income from the vineyard began to show signs of recovery. Mr. Parker noted down all this information in detail, and leaning back in his chair, looked around the flat. He felt, not for the first time, a distaste for his profession, which cut him off from the great masculine community, whose members take each other for granted and respect privacy. He relighted his pipe, which had gone out, and proceeded with his report. Information obtained from Monsieur Turgot, manager of the Credit Lyonnais, confirmed the evidence of the passbook in every particular. Monsieur Cathcart had recently made all his payments in notes, usually in notes of small denominations, and once or twice he had an overdraft, but never very large, and it was always made up within a few months. He had, of course, suffered a diminution of income, like everybody else, but the account had never been given the bank any uneasiness. At the moment it was some 14,000 francs on the right side, and Monsieur Cathcart was always very agreeable, though not very communicative. He was très correct. Information obtained from the concierge.
One does not see that much of Monsieur Cathcart, but he was très gentil, He never failed to say bonjour, bonjour when he came in or out. Oh, yes, he had visitors, sometimes a gentleman in evening dress. He made up card parties, Oh, no, monsieur, I have never directed any ladies to his room. Oh, apart from once, he had a little lunch party. His fiancée was there. Oh, yes, a very pretty blonde girl. Monsieur Cathcart used the flat as a bidetaire, He would go away for several months. It was kept clean by Madame Leblanc, the cousin of my late wife. Madame Leblanc is most respectable, yes. Her address, yes, of course, monsieur may have her address.
Information obtained from Madame Leblanc.
Oh, Monsieur Cathcart is a very charming young man. He is very pleasant to work for, very generous. He took a great interest in my family. I am most desolate to hear that he is dead, and on the eve of his engagement to the daughter of the English milady. Oh, I saw Mademoiselle last year when she visited Monsieur Cathcart in Paris. Oh, she was a beautiful young lady, and so fortunate. Very few young men are as serious as Monsieur Cathcart, especially when as good-looking. I have had experience of young men. I have had experience of the ways of young men, but I cannot relate many histories in the case of Monsieur Cathcart. He would not always be using his rooms. He would let me know when he would be at home, and I would go around and put the flat in order. He kept his things very tidy, not like English gentlemen in that respect. He was always very well dressed, very particular about his bath. He was like a woman for his toilette. Oh, the poor gentleman, he is dead. Oh, it is a bad thing, the poor boy. Oh, really, monsieur, it has quite taken away my appetite.
Information obtained from Monsieur, the Prefect of Police. Absolutely nothing regarding Monsieur Cathcart has ever come my way professionally. With regard to the sums of money you mention, well, if Monsieur will give me the numbers of some of the notes, I can make an effort to trace them. Where has the money gone? There's only two destinations I can think of. an irregular establishment, or a blackmailer. Certainly someone like Cathcart may well have a woman or two in his life, even without the knowledge of a concierge. Certainly a man who habitually cheats at cards, if he did cheat at cards, might well have got himself into the power of somebody who knew too much. It's noteworthy that his mysterious receipts in cash begin just as his economies are exhausted. Seems likely they represent irregular gains from gambling in the casinos, the exchange, or, if Denver's story has any truth on it, from crooked play. On the whole, I'm rather inclined to the blackmailing theory. It fits with the rest of the business we reconstructed at Riddlesdale. 2 or 3 things, however, still puzzled Parker. Why should the blackmailer have been trailing about the Yorkshire moors with a cycle and sidecar? Whose was the green-eyed cat? It was a valuable trinket. Had Cathcart offered it as part of his payment? That seemed somehow foolish. One could only suppose that the blackmailer had tossed it away with contempt then. Well, the cat was in Parker's possession. It occurred to him that it might be worthwhile to get a jeweller to estimate its value. But the sidecar was a difficulty. The cat was a difficulty. And more than all, Lady Mary was a difficulty. Why had Lady Mary lied at the inquest? For that she had lied, Parker was in no manner of doubt. He disbelieved the whole story of the second shot which had awakened her. What had brought her to the conservatory door at 3 o'clock in the morning? Whose was the suitcase, if it was a suitcase, that had lain concealed among the cactus plants? Why this prolonged nervous breakdown, with no particular symptoms, which prevented Lady Mary from giving evidence before the magistrate or answering her brother's inquiries? Could Lady Mary have been present at the interview in the shrubbery? If so, surely Wimsey and he would have found her footprints. Was she in league with a blackmailer? That was an unpleasant thought. Was she endeavouring to help her fiancé? She had an allowance of her own, a generous one, as Parker knew from the Duchess. Could she have tried to assist Cathcart with money? But in that case, why not tell all she knew? The worst about Cathcart, always supposing that card-sharping were the worst, was now matter of public knowledge, and the man himself was dead. If she knew the truth, why did she not come forward and save her brother? And at this point he was visited by a thought even more unpleasant. If, after all, it had not been Denver whom Mrs. Marchbanks had heard in the library, but someone else, someone who likewise had an appointment with a blackmailer, someone who was on his side as against Cathcart, who knew that there might be danger in the interview. Had he himself paid proper attention to the grass lawn between the house and the thicket? Might Thursday morning perhaps have revealed here and there a trodden blade that rain and sap had since restored to uprightness? Had Peter and he found all the footprints in the wood? Had some more trusted hand fired that shot at close quarters? Once again, whose was the green-eyed cat? Surmises and surmises, each uglier than the last, thronged into Parker's mind. He took up a photograph of Cathcart with which Wimsey had supplied him, and looked at it long and curiously. It was a dark, handsome face. The hair was black, with a slight wave, the nose large and well-shaped, the big dark eyes at once pleasing and arrogant. The mouth was good, though a little thick, with a hint of sensuality in its close curves. The chin showed a cleft. Frankly, Parker confessed to himself, it did not attract him. He would have been inclined to dismiss the man as a Byronic blighter. But experience told him that this kind of face might be powerful with a woman, either for love or hatred. Coincidences usually have the air of being practical jokes on the part of Providence. Mr. Parker was shortly favoured, if the term is a suitable one, with a special display of this Olympian humour. As a rule, that kind of thing did not happen to him. It was more in Wimsey's line. Parker had made his way from modest beginnings to a respectable appointment in the CID, rather by a combination of hard work, shrewdness, and caution, than by spectacular displays of happy guesswork, or any knack for taking fortune's tide at the flood. This time, however, he was given a leading from above, and it is only part of the nature of things and men that he should have felt distinctly ungrateful for it. He finished his report, replaced everything tidily in the desk, and went round to the police station to arrange with the prefect about the keys and the fixing of seals. It was early evening and not too cold. He determined, therefore, to banish gloomy thoughts of a café cognac, followed by a stroll through the Paris of the shops, and being of a kindly domestic nature, indeed, he turned over in his mind the idea of buying something Parisian for his elder sister, who was unmarried and lived a rather depressing life in Barrow-in-Furness. Parker knew that she would take pathetic delight in some filmy scrap of lace underwear which no one but herself would ever see. Mr. Parker was not the kind of man to be deterred by the difficulty of buying ladies' underwear in a foreign language. He was not very imaginative. He remembered that a learned judge had one day asked in court what a camisole was, and recollected that there had seemed to be nothing particularly embarrassing about the garment entertained. He determined, therefore, that he would find a really Parisian shop and ask for a camisole. That would give him a start, and then Mademoiselle would show him other things without being asked further. Accordingly, towards 6 o'clock, he was strolling along the Rue de la Paix, with a little carton under his arm, having spent rather more money than he intended, but he had acquired knowledge. He knew for certain what a camisole was, and he had grasped for the first time in his life that crêpe de Chine had no recognizable relation to crepe, and was astonishingly expensive for its bulk. The young lady had been charmingly sympathetic, and without actually insinuating anything, had contrived to make her customer feel just a little bit of a dog. He felt that his French accent was improving. The street was crowded with people slowly sauntering past the brilliant shop windows. Mr. Parker stopped and gazed nonchalantly over a gorgeous display of jewellery, as though hesitating between a pearl necklace valued at 80,000 francs and a pendant of diamonds and aquamarines set in platinum. And there, balefully winking at him from under a label inscribed Bonne Fortune, hung a green-eyed cat. The cat stared at Mr. Parker, and Mr. Parker stared at the cat. It was no ordinary cat. It was a cat with a personality. Its tiny arched body sparkled with diamonds, and its platinum paws set close together, and its erect and glittering tail were instinct in every line with the sensuous delight of friction against some beloved object. Its head, cocked slightly to one side, seemed to demand a titillating finger under the jaw. It was a minute work of art, by no journeyman hand. Mr. Parker fished in his pocket-book. He looked from the cat in his hand to the cat in the window. They were astonishingly alike. They were identical. Mr. Parker marched into the shop. "I have here a diamond cat which greatly resembles one which I perceive in your window. Could you have the obligingness to inform me what would be the value of such a cat?"
"Oh, certainly, monsieur. The price of a cat is 5,000 francs. It is, as you perceive, made of the finest materials. Moreover, it is the work of an artist. It is worth more than the market value of the stones."
"It is, I suppose, a mascot?"
"Ah, yes, monsieur. It brings great good luck, especially at cards. Many ladies buy these little objects. We have here other mascots, but all of this special design are of a similar quality and price. Monsieur may rest assured that his cat is a cat of pedigree." "I suppose such cats are everywhere obtainable in Paris?" "Oh, no, monsieur. If you desire to match your cat, I recommend you to do it quickly. Monsieur Briquet has only a score of these cats to begin with, and there are now only 3 left, including the one in the window. I believe that he will not make any more. To repeat a thing often is to vulgarize it. There will, of course, be other cats."
"I don't want another cat."
"Do I understand you to say that cats such as this are only sold by Monsieur Briquet? My cat originally must have come from this shop?"
"Undoubtedly, monsieur. It is one of our cats. These little animals are made by a workman of ours, a genius, who is responsible for many of our finest articles. It would, I imagine, be impossible to find out to whom this cat was originally sold. If it was sold over the counter for cash, it would be difficult, but if it was entered in our books, it might not be impossible to discover, if monsieur desired it." "I do desire it very much. You see, I am an agent of the British police. It's of great importance that I know to whom this cat originally belonged."
"Oh, well, in that case,
I shall do better to inform Monsieur the proprietor. He carried away the card into the back premises, presently emerged with a stout gentleman, whom he introduced as Monsieur Briquet. In Monsieur Briquet's private office, the books of the establishment were brought out and laid on the desk.
You will understand, monsieur, that I can only inform you of the names and addresses of such purchasers of these cats as have had an account sent them. It is, however, unlikely that such an object of such value was paid for in cash, but some rich Anglo-Saxons do prefer it that way. We need not go back further than the beginning of the year when these cats were made. The first purchase was on January the 18th.
Mr. Parker noted various names and addresses, and at the end of half an hour Monsieur Briquet said in a final manner,
"That is all, monsieur. How many names have you there?"
13.
"And there are still 3 cats in stock. The original number was 20, so that 4 must have been sold for cash. If monsieur wishes to verify the matter, we can consult the daybook."
The search of the daybook was longer and more tiresome, but eventually 4 cats were duly found to have been sold, one on January the 31st, another on February the 6th, the third on May the 17th, and the last on August the 9th. Mr. Parker had risen and embarked upon a long string of compliments and thanks, when a sudden association of ideas and dates prompted him to hand Cathcart's photograph to Monsieur Briquet and ask whether he recognized it.
"No. It is not one of our regular customers. I have a very good memory for faces. I make a point of knowing anyone who has had considerable account of me. This gentleman has not anybody's face, but we can ask my assistants."
The majority of the staff failed to recognize the photograph. Parker was on the point of putting it back in his pocketbook when a young lady who had just finished selling an engagement ring to an obese and elderly Jew arrived and said without hesitation that this was the Englishman who bought a diamond cat for the pretty blonde. "Mademoiselle, I beseech you, please do me the favour to remember all you can about it."
"It's not a face one would forget, especially when one is a woman. The gentleman bought a diamond cat and paid for it. No, I am wrong. It was the lady who bought it. I remember now to have been surprised that she should pay like that at once in money, because ladies do not usually carry such large sums. The gentleman bought 2. He bought a diamond and tortoiseshell comb for the lady to wear, and then she said she must give him something, and asked me for a mascot that was good for cards. I showed her some jewels more suitable for the gentleman, but she saw these cats and fell in love with them, and said she should have a cat and nothing else. She was sure it would bring him good hands. She asked me if it was not so. I said undoubtedly. Monsieur must be sure never to play without it. We laughed very much. He promised to always have it upon him when he was playing."
"And how was she, this lady?"
"Blonde, monsieur, very pretty, rather tall and svelte, very well dressed, a big hat and dark blue costume. She was a foreigner."
"English?"
"I do not know. She spoke French very, very well, almost like a French person, but she had just the little suspicion of an accent."
"What language did she speak with the gentleman?"
"Oh, French, monsieur. You see, we were speaking together, and they both appealed to me continually, and so all the talk was in French. The gentleman spoke French à merveille. It was only his clothes and a certain je ne sais quoi in his appearance that I guessed that he was English. The lady spoke equally fluently, but one remarked just the accent from time to time. Of course I went away from them once or twice to get goods from the window. They talked then, but I do not know in what language."
"Can you tell me, please, mademoiselle, how long ago this was?"
"That is difficult, monsieur."
We can see by the daybook," put in Monsieur Briquet. "We can tell what occasion a diamond comb was sold with a diamond cat."
"Of course. Let's go back." They went back and turned to the January volume, where they found no help. But on February 6th they read, "Tortoiseshell comb of diamonds, 7,500 francs. Diamond cat, 5,000 francs. Well, that settles it."
"Monsieur does not appear content."
"Monsieur, I'm more grateful than I can say for your very great kindness, but I will frankly confess that of all the 12 months of the year, I had rather it have been any other." Parker found this whole episode so annoying to his feelings that he bought 2 comic papers and read them solemnly through over his dinner, by way of settling his mind. Then, returning to his modest hotel, he ordered a drink and sat down to compose a letter to Lord Peter. It was a slow job, and he did not appear to relish it very much. His concluding paragraph was as follows: "I have put all these things down for you without any comment. You will be able to draw your own inferences as well as I can. Better, I hope, for my own are perplexing and worrying me no end. They may be all rubbish. I hope they are. I dare say something will turn up at your end to put quite a different interpretation upon the facts. But I do feel that they must be cleared up. I would offer to hand over the job, but another man might jump at conclusions even faster than I do and make a mess of it. But of course, if you say so, I will be taken suddenly ill at any moment. Let me know. Can you get hold of a photograph of Lady Mary Wimsey, and find out, if possible, about the diamond comb and the green-eyed cat? Also, at exactly what date Lady Mary was in Paris in February. Does she speak French as well as you do? Let me know how you are getting on. Yours ever, Charles Parker." He reread the letter and report carefully, and sealed them up. Then he wrote to his sister, did up his parcel neatly, and rang for the valet de chambre. "I want this letter sent off at once, registered, and this parcel can go tomorrow, local postal." After which he went to bed, and read himself to sleep with a commentary on the Epistle to the Hebrews. "Dear Charles, don't worry. I don't like the look of things myself, rightfully, but I'd rather you tackled the business than anyone else. As you say, the ordinary police bloke doesn't mind whom he arrests, provided he arrests someone. He's altogether a most damnable fellow to have poking in one's affairs. I'm putting my mind to getting my brother cleared. That is the first consideration, after all, and really anything else would be better than having Jerry hanged for a crime he didn't commit. Whoever did it, it's better the right person should suffer than the wrong. So go ahead. I enclose 2 photographs, all I can lay hands on for the moment. The one in nursing kit is rather rotten, and the other's all smothered up in a big hat. I had a damn queer little adventure here on Wednesday, and I'll tell you about it when we meet. But I found a woman who obviously knows more than she ought, and a most promising ruffian, only I'm afraid he's got an alibi. Also, I've got a faint suggestion of a clue about number 10. Nothing much happened at Northallerton, except that Jerry was of course committed for trial. My mother is here, thank God, and I'm hoping she'll get some sense out of Mary. But she's been worse for the last 2 days. Mary, I mean, not my mother. Beastly sick, all that sort of thing. Dr. Thingamy, who's a bit of an ass, but can't make it out. Mother says it's as clear as noonday, and she'll stop it if I have patience a day or 2. I made her ask about the comb and the cat. Mary denies the cat altogether, but admits to a diamond comb bought in Paris. Says she bought it herself. It's in town. I'll get it sent on. She says she can't remember where she bought it and has lost the bill, but it didn't cost anything like 7,500 francs. She was in Paris from February 2nd to the February 30th. My chief business now is to see Lubbock and clear up a little matter concerning Silver Sand. The assizes will be the first week in November. In fact, the end of next week. This rushes things a bit, but it doesn't matter, because they can't try him there. Nothing will matter but the grand jury, who are bound to find a true bill on the face of it. After that, we can hang matters up as long as we like. It's going to be a deuce of a business, Parliament sitting and all. Old Biggs is fearfully perturbed under that marble outside of his. I hadn't really grasped what a fuss it was to try peers. It only happened about once in every 60 years, and the procedure is about as old as Queen Elizabeth. They have to appoint a Lord High Steward for the occasion, God knows what. They have to make it frightfully clear in the commission that it is only for the occasion, because somewhere about Richard III's time the LHS was such a terrifically big pot that he got to ruling the roost. So when Henry IV came to the throne and the office came into the hands of a crown, he jolly well kept it there, and now they only appoint a man pro tem. Things like the coronation, and shows like Jerry's. The king always pretends not to know there isn't an LHS till the time comes, and is no end surprised at having to think of somebody to take on the job. But you know all this. I didn't. I got it out of Biggie. Cheer up. Pretend you don't know that any of these people are relations of mine. My mother sends you the kindest regards and what not. Hopes she'll see you again soon. Bunter sends something correct and respectful, but I forget what. Yours in the Brotherhood of Detection, P.W. It may as well be said at once that the evidence from the photographs was wholly inconclusive.